Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Well, I recently got a couple of questions from the same person under our old intro video, which we haven't changed in like 4 years. And they're valid questions, and I wanted to approach them both in this video. I probably should separate them out, but they really go hand in hand. And the first one was, well, what other jobs do you have? Because these are standard questions that people who do not live a more self-sufficient lifestyle always have. And I had them too before we really got into this ourselves. How do people make it work? And then the second question, which is just as important, was what do you do if you get really, really sick? And that would also apply to the loss of a spouse or anything that falls along that line that could mean that you cannot do the work involved in keeping up on the homestead. Very valid questions. And anyone who's already in this lifestyle or thinking about getting into it, these are all things we should be thinking about. What are our backup plans? So first for us, let's talk about that first question, which is, what other jobs do we have? Because obviously people, when they're from the outside looking in, they think, well, you don't get paid to take care of your chickens or your garden or whatever it is. Or, if you have a bigger farm, your cows and your sheep and your goats and your ducks and all the many things that people are doing out there. Well, actually, many people do get paid for the work they put into their farm. So they might be putting that work into their farm or their homestead in order to basically just be more self-sufficient so they can have that food for themselves. But most of the time what happens is a lot of us have excess that we can turn around and sell and make money off of. In fact, for me, I don't sell much when it comes to produce. Usually what I do with my extra, I use it for barter. I'll barter for either a product by somebody else or a service or something like that. And that can also apply to anything that you make. If you make your own homemade bread or your homemade wines and meads or whatever, any of these things can be used for barter. And it's an important skill that, gosh, most of us, everybody actually should be getting on board with. Even if you're not a homesteader, everybody has at least some kind of skill they can use to trade for product or services. But yes, a lot of people can make enough money off of the sales of products that their farm produces to keep them going. So for us, we do sell our excess eggs. We just do that locally. And selling seeds from our herbs and even some of our vegetables. We actually do pretty good off of just selling seed. And I also sometimes will sell live plants locally. I don't like sending live plants through the mail, but I will do that locally or again use those for barter as well. And people who have dairy animals might sell their milks or even the meats that they might get it just depends on the size of their farm and how much excess that they can create. So a lot of people not only use their farm and their garden as a way for them to save money and be less reliant on the system, but also to take their excess and sell it for profit and earn an income. And then for us, I did say as far as our little homestead goes, it's mostly when it comes to what we produce from those things, the garden and the chicken, it's mostly eggs and seeds. But then we also have skills and products that we can make based on those skills, such as my sewing skills and crochet skills. Even though I'm not doing it right now, I was making and selling lots of skirts and aprons before I even opened my Etsy store, and that was quickly becoming the main source of income until I opened the Etsy store, which was the main source of income. But by the time you're seeing this video, the Etsy store is probably closed, but I still do sales. I just do them more directly, cutting out the middleman. So even though I'm not doing the skirts and aprons, just because I had to downsize the amount of products that I sell because it was too difficult to keep up on everything, that included making my homemade soaps. I make soaps for us still, but I don't make and sell them anymore because it was just another thing that was too hard to keep up on. But I still crochet items like hats and scarves and gloves and skillet and pot handle covers. And I do pretty good on those items selling this product. So if you put yourself out there, even if it's just on social media that, hey, I'm making and selling this product, you can actually get quite a few sales, especially people who are looking for handmade products and products that are made in their own country rather than buying cheap products overseas. So I'm not even just talking about US made product, because maybe you live in the UK, maybe you live in Australia or New Zealand or some other place, and you would rather support vendors in your own country. I think Facebook Market is a good place that is totally free. You don't have to pay fees to put your product out there like you do with Etsy. Etsy charges a lot of fees, which is one of the many reasons I'm leaving Etsy. So anyway, a lot of people do that, and you might be surprised. I remember when I first started thinking that when I was retiring from teaching dance and then retiring from teaching martial arts, before I got to that point, I'm thinking, well, what's another way that I can help add income to the home? Patrick was still working outside the home at the time. And I thought about selling seeds, but I'm like, how much money could I possibly make off of those? Well, you might be surprised, especially now that more and more people are getting into gardening and they're looking for various types of seeds, whether it be fruits, vegetables, or medicinal herbs. I mean, there's lots of people looking for this. So and a lot of people might look for something more from a small business owner rather than a bigger place like Baker Creek, which is a great place. I highly recommend it. It's where I got a lot of my original seeds. But some people might want to branch out and look for someone smaller to order from to help support the small business owner. And then continuing on for us, well, obviously we have YouTube. Now, when I first started YouTube, I was for about a month and a half, the first 6 weeks, I didn't monetize my channel. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go that route until people kept saying, you're giving information out for free. You're putting all this hard work in it and you're not getting paid. You should just go ahead and monetize. People will still watch your channel. So I did, and I'm grateful I did, but it took a long time. It took a long time because my channel didn't grow very fast. It took a long time for me to get to a point where we're actually earning a wage from our YouTube channel that was worth the time that we put into it, because I wasn't even making nothing. I mean, I was making a fraction of minimum wage when I first got started. And well, probably even less than that because that's gone up too. But at any rate, you know, it took years to finally build up to a point where it's like, wow, we can actually live off our YouTube income right now. And that was a relief. But then I also have to take into account that for any reason at any time, my YouTube channel could get shut down no matter how careful I am, because it's happened to people. And if that gets shut down, that income's gone. So it's always important to have other backup forms. The problem with YouTube, though, is even all of our other income, all our passive income, which would be through affiliates. So that's like any company that we use their product, Mother Earth Products, the Green Stock, because we have a Green Stock out here, Dr. Jacobs soaps, very many other ones that you'll see the affiliate links in there, or any Amazon links that we use, because just Amazon in general is an affiliate. So any Amazon link we put in there, we earn a commission off of that because we are Amazon affiliates. So that's another source of income from us. And it's passive income because we don't have to work so hard at it. We just have to make sure the links are in the description box. And so those are passive forms of income. The problem with all those passive forms is if our YouTube channel goes, then so does all that as well. So that's why I don't want to be dependent on YouTube either. So though all these different forms are great, and you know, at least add just a little bit here, a little bit there, and a little bit there, and they do help, we're still always thinking of having backup plans. We do have ideas for backup plans for other businesses that we've already had in the past that we may start again. And no, it's not going to be the dance and martial arts. I've decided we would have to redo this room all over again for me to start doing the dance and martial arts. And if you're curious about that, I'll link to the video down below. Some things have even changed since that video, but where I did a tour of this room after we completely converted it and made it into what it is now and no longer a dance or martial arts studio. But that is what I did. I've always worked, since Pat and I have been married, I've always worked inside the home. And so, yeah, those are the main things for us. You know, the products we make and sell, the things that we can sell, you know, the seeds and the eggs, you know, the YouTube and the passive income we get through there. And plus we do have some people that donate to us through Patreon, and that is really nice too. But just so you know, as far as Patreon goes, It's out there. It's free to everyone. You don't even have to donate to see any of the posts I put out there. So that's where you'll find all my written recipes, written notes, and so on, plus just some whatever I feel like sharing over there. Even now I just updated it too. I even have a post on vintage canning tables for water bath canning low acid foods as well as high acid foods, because it was the standard practice before pressure canners became the norm, just so you know. And the Amish still do it, and people in other countries still do it because they don't have access to pressure canners, or it's very, very, very expensive. So anyway, yes, I have posts like that, and they're free to everyone. You don't have to donate to Patreon in order to see any of those posts. I just simply make them public for everyone. Now let's get to the other question, which was, what do you do if you get really, really sick? And again, I think, though I might still do a separate video on what are you going to do if you lose a spouse, this does kind of fall in the same lines as that. Well, first of all, one of the big things we did when we really started realizing the importance of becoming more self-sufficient and started thinking about the gardening and getting chickens and maybe buying some more land and stocking up on food even before we had the garden. But as we were starting to do that, we knew one of the most important things was getting ourselves debt-free. So we were already out of debt for everything except for the house. We still had the house. And so what we did was we refied the house. Part of the reason we refinanced was also to get away from Bank of America, not only because it's Bank of America, but also because that bank branch was closing down in our small town. And so we wanted to go with more of a local bank. And so we switched to a local bank. We refinanced the loan, got a lower interest rate. And so that made it also easier for us to really pile some payments onto the house. So we started by paying, and we have a video on how we became debt free, but I'll just go over it real quick. As we started taking any extra income we could and making extra payments on the house until we got, I think 2 years ahead. We ended up getting 2 years ahead on the payments. And once we got to that point where that way, if anything happened to one of us or both of us, or Patrick loses his job, because by that point, my income through dance and martial arts had been reduced way down. And so we wouldn't have been able to live off that income alone. And this, of course, also goes back to before we even started YouTube. And then we started taking all the extra and just putting it on the house. And we ended up getting it paid off, completely off from the time we started to the time we ended. I don't remember. I think I say in that video, but it might have been as little as a year that we ended up getting the house paid off. But I'm thinking 2 years. And it was shocking. I didn't think we could really do it. But as you know, people will say, whenever you listen to anyone talk about getting out of debt, it really does happen the way they describe it. So once you start piling stuff on and you start seeing that principle going down, 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 you start finding more ways to save money so you can take the money you save and put it on that principle because it's exciting to see. And that's exactly what happened. And of course, through all that, you learn more frugal methods to live. You also learn what you can live without. And that's pretty liberating once you realize what you can really live without, that you think before you get started, you think you can't live without it. You quickly learn that you can. And so practicing the frugal methods is one way of being prepared for if something happens and you can't work to keep up either on the farm or bring the food coming in or even putting out YouTube videos or whatever it is, or make the product. And also being ahead on all this stuff. So making sure you have plenty of product made or the stuff needed to make the product. Because some stuff, you know, even if we were pretty sick, there's a lot of stuff we could still do. We would have to be completely laid up to not be able to do everything that we're doing right now. I mean, as long as I can still talk, I can still shoot YouTube videos. I mean, there's that. And it would just be videos like this where I'm just teaching by instructing, maybe not so much by doing, but using pictures and video clips that I already have out. And then some other things we did was getting a year ahead on our Our power bill, though, yes, we did invest in solar and we have other things that we do that are off grid where we don't have to be fully dependent on our public power. We still keep it for several reasons, which I talk about in other videos. And same thing with water. We have our own rainwater collection that we filter and use, but it's still nice being on city water as well. And so before we even had all those systems in place, we were getting payments ahead. Well, it's not really payments because you don't make payments, you just pay by usage. But still, we kind of took an average of, well, how much money do we, on average, does it cost us per month for water and for utilities? We paid the balance that was owed plus extra on top of that much more extra until we got ourselves a year ahead, so that if anything happens and we're not able to pay these bills, we know we at least don't have to worry about it for a whole year. We're covered, just like we did with the house. Now, it never came to the point that we had to fall back on any of this. So like with the house, once we paid it off, we actually ended up getting a pretty good chunk of money back, because when we made those payments ahead, we also paid the interest ahead. Well, when the loan, once it was paid off, that was interest that didn't need to be paid because we paid it off. So they paid us all that interest back. So that was pretty cool. And then that money went back into other investments or stocking up on more food. So having a pantry full of food can do a lot to get you through hard times. Whether you're in the hospital, you lose a spouse, or whatever it is, some people think that preparedness is all about just major catastrophic events, like earthquakes and hurricanes and polar shifts and financial collapse, but it's not just about that. It's about the everyday life things that can happen to everyone. Anyone who's married, one of you is going to go first. It's just the way it is. Or you're both going to go at the same time, and then it won't matter. So being prepared for the loss of a spouse, no matter what age you are, because you can lose a spouse in your 20s, or it will happen much later in life. You never know when that's going to happen. So always having some kind of backup plan is important. And Patrick and I think and talk about this kind of stuff all the time. We were just talking about that this morning. Okay, what happens to this situation if I'm gone? Like, what happens to my YouTube channel, since I'm the one that does all the work? Patrick might shoot some videos, but I'm the one that does all the editing. And I'm the one that puts the videos up. I'm the one that does all the computer stuff, except for when Patrick does get in there and reply to comments on his own videos. And, so what's going to happen to YouTube? Is Patrick going to want to keep up on it? If he is, how is he going to want to take the time to learn how to do all that? Or what's going to happen to all the things that Patrick does when, that's his jobs around the house and the products that he makes and so on? What's going to happen to all that if he goes first? So we have to, obviously there's things that either he's not going that I do that he can't, and vice versa. So we have to have some kind of backup plans. And so we do think and talk about these things all the time. And this is very, very important for everyone to do. And if you're single and you're doing this stuff all by yourself, then try to think what's going to happen if you get crippled somehow or really sick and you can't keep up on your garden, you can't keep up on your farm animals, or even the products you're making and selling. You need to have a backup plan. So having some kind of savings in some form is important. It doesn't have to be cash buried under your bed. It doesn't have to be money in the bank. I mean, there's so many things going on right now that makes it kind of scary to do any of this stuff. And so for us, it's more tangible investments. So we do keep cash on hand for whatever happens, so we can have that immediate access to that. But we also look more at investments. Right now it's investment into heavy equipment, because this could be something that could be a business for us. Let's say if YouTube's completely gone, and that's something, and we've done it before, it's just now looking at maybe getting back into it and expanding that business possibly. And at any rate, having that equipment also means that we can do on our other pieces of property, we can do the work ourselves. We don't have to hire anyone else to do it. We can also use this stuff for barter, or we can turn around and sell that stuff, most likely for at least what we paid for it. And especially any improvements Patrick has made, just like on the newer dump truck, he made some improvements on that. That can definitely at least keep the cost up to what we paid for it, if not more. So tangible investments that we can turn around and sell if we have to, if we can't make money off of them, because maybe we can't run them anymore because physically we just cannot do it. Then we can sell it, and now we have that cash to put back into some other type of investment that will keep us going and keep us surviving. And every choice that a person makes has to be tailored to them and their specific needs. There's so many things to take into account. So I can tell you all this stuff that we do, but obviously that's not going to apply to everyone. Not everyone wants to do a YouTube channel, and not everyone wants to grow and sell products from their own home. They might want to find another way to earn some income to be able to keep going and keep doing what they're doing. But you always have to prepare for anything. I want to link you back to a video I did in Where You're Putting Your Trust, and where I cover a lot of this same thing, that we always have to be thinking outside the box, even when we think we've got it all figured out. There's a lot of people out there that think they've got all their bases covered, and they might find out that they really don't in a major catastrophe, because anything can be taken away, no matter what it is, no matter how safe you think it is. It can be gone, or it can be made useless. So maybe you have a pile of cash somewhere, because cash is king, and you know that it can't be burnt up in a fire because you got it in a fireproof safe that's in a place that nobody knows about, and there's no way they could break into it if they did know where it's at. Well, what if cash is made completely obsolete? All that cash you have is absolutely worthless. So there's so many different ways any of this can go. And so we always have to be on our toes and thinking about these things. So anyway, the main purpose was to answer those questions, at least from our viewpoint, but to also give you some ideas, again, about thinking outside the box. And please check out the videos I'll be putting in the description box down below by clicking on, if you're on a computer, show more right down here below my channel name, or if you're on a smart device, a little gray arrow, a triangle, or even maybe just a word more or something over on this side. Check out that description box so you can find those links, because I do highly recommend those 2 videos on how we got debt free, and also on the Where You're Putting Your Trust. I think these are important topics, and just as these questions are very important, whether it be someone who's thinking about becoming more self-sufficient and wondering how people make it work, or if it's people who already are more self-sufficient but may need to kind of rethink some things, especially as we're seeing the constant changes happening out there in the world. This is important. This is where I don't think we should always be so wrapped up in news all the time, but I think it's important we stay at least informed enough to know what changes we might have to make, because we're finding we're always having to kind of change our direction on a few different things just to stay ahead of what's happening. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and any thoughts you would like to share on this topic, please put those in comments down below. And thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.